Hello. I decided on my car ride home I was gonna start a YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna start a YouTube channel, I guess. I don't really know. But I just logged off of the Zoom meeting like 2 hours early because I didn't want to be there anymore. So I'm gonna talk about why I didn't want to be there anymore, and it's a very little thing. It just like kind of builds up over time, microaggressions, if you will. But yeah, so I'm non-binary, and I very much enjoy being feminine. It is a part of me that I love very, very much. I love the color pink, but I'm not a woman. And so when I see spaces that are advertised as this is for women and also for people that are not women, I'm like, oh boy, I'm not one of those. I can go to this event. And then when that space or that event uses very women-specific language, then it's very like, oh, so this isn't for me. You said it was for me, but it's not at all. And I understand like language is such a small part of events or of spaces, but also it's like a part. I won't show toes, I'm sorry. That's the thing I'm looking for. I don't know you, I don't know this space very well. I'm like getting a feel for the group. So your language is something I'm going to be looking at, and if you advertise it as like gender inclusive and then the only gender you're including is women, then it's like, oh, you are actually not respecting my gender at all. Like, oh, I see you have your pronouns listed, that's awesome, but you're not respecting mine. Or like, oh, you say women and non-binary people, but you are while you are speaking, you are exclusively using women. And also like the Zoom I just got off of, it was about reproductive access and healthcare and like stuff like that. And so that spans a wide range of people, and there's so many different ways you could say it, like people capable of getting pregnant, and like you can say women too, just like mix it up a little bit. I'm a doula, and we mix up breastfeeding and chest feeding and body feeding, mom, gestational parent, birth parent. Like, you don't have to like stick to like only gender neutral stuff, but like mix it up a little bit. Especially when you are advertising specifically to women and non-binary people. Because now I know that like you're not actually really trying to include non-binary people at all. And like I'm a doula, and I'm also a childcare provider, and those are obviously like largely women-dominated spaces. And because I look the way I do, I am often assumed to be a woman, which I understand. We live in a society. But that is incredibly frustrating to me. Like, I just hate that it's assumed that I'm a woman. That does not make me very happy. And I don't really know how to segue into this naturally, but like, okay, so I dropped out of college. But I did take an ethics class that I think I failed. Maybe I passed it. I can't really remember. I think I got a low grade. But one of the assignments I did do was I read the chapter on feminist ethics. And feminist ethics was described basically as caring about people, as compassion. Because in our culture, like caring about people and having that sort of compassion is seen as a motherly urge, is seen as something that women do. So childcare providing is a womanly profession, and being a doula or providing birth support is a womanly profession. Especially because it's seen largely as like women give birth, as we have seen by my reproductive access Zoom call that was using super gender specific language. Also calling like this real life, like I think her name was Rosie Jimenez, they're like, she's a symbol of yada yada yada. It's like, no, she was a person that died in a terrible way. I really don't like it when people say like, oh, this person's a symbol. Like, no, they died. Like, that was really sad and messed up, and they had a life, and it just makes me feel yucky. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like, people are important, and it's good to like look at other people's experiences, especially when things have gone so terrible. For those of you that don't know, Rosie Jimenez, she had a 4-year-old daughter, I believe, and then became pregnant again and was like, this sucks. And abortion was not legal, so she acquired an unsafe abortion, and things became infected, and she didn't want to tell the doctor, like, hey, I broke the law by getting an abortion. So they couldn't provide her the care that she needed, and she died. And then like a whole smear campaign went on, and I'll provide links or whatever. But like, what a terrible thing to happen. And I think she was like 27 or something like that. And like, we can draw, I don't want to say we can draw power from that story, but we can look at that and learn and look at our society and be like, okay, here's how we can still improve. Like, even though I think that happened in like the 70s, but I can't quite remember, I'm sorry. And here's how far we've come, and here's how far we still have to go, and we can help other people so they don't have to end up like Rosie Jimenez. But I really just hate the language, again, sorry, of people being like, she's a symbol. Like, no, she's a person. Like, it really sucks that happened. Anyway, what was I talking about? Feminist ethics. Okay. And like, you're free to disagree with me on like all of this. I like literally don't care. I'm starting this YouTube channel just so I have like someone to monologue to, because I refuse to monologue on my Snapchat story anymore. Because like, I'm not gonna make my mom's my friend on Snapchat now, so I can be like, hey mom, here's my 20-minute story about me putting on my makeup today. Or feminist ethics or whatever. Feminist ethics. People assume you're a woman. Using women only language in birthing spaces. Yes. And that's really frustrating. Especially because it's like, so to talk more about like my own gender experience, I guess, like I'm not a woman. I love the feminine things about myself. I love to be feminine. I consider myself a very caring and nurturing person. I call myself a MILF. I don't have kids. But like, it very much bugs me that those are seen as feminine qualities, and that I'm seen as having like a feminine job. And like, it's messed up in like a lot of ways. Like, obviously, like, childcare shouldn't be a woman's job or whatever. Because then you have like deadbeat dads being normalized and shit like that. And that's messed up. I didn't like write a script or anything. I just like came out here and set up my phone. Yeah, but it bugs me. And I think, like, I know, like, in my own brain and with people I'm comfortable with, like, they're aware of my gender and I'm aware of them, and we're aware of each other, so we can take the care we need to use inclusive language. And in wider circles, that's not very common. But it's still like jarring every time I leave my bubble to like join a women and non-binary people's group, and then I'm like, oh, you just mean women. Also, that's the other thing. A lot of the times when people say women and non-binary people, they just mean women and other people who say they're not women, but I still think that they're women. Which is shitty on a lot of levels. Like, it's shitty for assigned female people like me, because then we get like super misgendered. Wow! Wow! Did the cat get out? Oh, that's bad. Okay. There's been like coyotes and stuff. Hopefully he's just in the window. I think he's just in the window. Maybe that's Bun? We don't know. But it's like shitty for people like me because we get misgendered, and it's like a whole thing. But it's also shitty for non-binary people that are assigned male, because, or like trans women, because the women running the women and non-binary people event is just like, they're turfy about it. They're like, well, like, we really just meant like ladies and like, and it's just like, then just say women and then be like, hey, we're transphobic in your description or whatever. And it's just so incredibly frustrating. And like, I don't know, gender is just such a varied experience across the world, across cultures, across just people, like day to day. And the words we use to describe our gender experience can bring us closer together, but also we have to understand, like, gender is a social construct, and we can use the closest words we can to our experience to describe it to other people, but like, non-binary does not fully describe my gender experience, and nor do I expect it to. And woman doesn't fully describe someone else's gender experience, and we shouldn't expect it to. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I think that our society should be more gender inclusive. Especially in birth service circles, because it just really bugs me, because I think birth is super interesting, and I love to learn about birth, and I love to talk about birth, and reproductive access and healthcare is something that's super important to me. And when I enter into those spaces to get misgendered and to get everyone being like, well, when women get pregnant and when women breastfeed and like stuff like that, it's just super disheartening, and I feel really out of place. And it's just the same feeling of like being in 8th grade and on the volleyball team and all the other girls are best friends and I'm just kind of there. Except like 100 times worse, because I'm like trying to get paid for the work that I'm doing. Anyway, I just rambled, and I don't think I made any points. But I said something.